Good evening and welcome to the 6 p.m. Special City Council meeting for Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present. And to begin, we have asked Vice Chair White to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Please rise if you are able. And repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we would ask for you to join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. First up, we have the boys and girls request to be on the agenda, but I don't see Mr. Ebert here tonight with us. Can we go ahead and move past that, and then we'll come back when we see him if he comes, if he shows up. So moving on, item number 4, common consent. We have the council rules and norms.
You're looking for a motion?
I would
Chair?
love a motion.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry. Just checking in. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the common consent.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the items listed under common consent by Councilmember Chaburka and a second by Councilmember Hyatt. This is a voice vote. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye. Thank you. That passes. Next up, we have public hearings. First is the fiscal year 2022 arts grants continued from last week, July 6, 2021. We accepted public input last week on this, and we had to reschedule it to this week. Do we just need to close the public hearing?
I want to see if there's anybody who wants that.
I think you should see if anybody
Okay.
else wants to comment.
Perfect.
And then
Okay. So this is a public hearing, and we've already opened that public hearing, so we'll go ahead now. Brandon, do you want to explain to those in the virtual world if they would like to participate in the public hearing?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, if you're joining us via Zoom, you can participate in this public hearing regarding the arts grants by using the raise hand feature, which is found at the bottom of your application.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. This is Lori Buckley. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
I didn't know if you had asked any questions. Your feed was muted from the beginning of the meeting until just now. And so did you have any questions for me with regards to arts grants?
I don't think anyone had any questions for you, but thanks for checking in.
Okay, thank you so much.
I did see we had a hand raised. We can go ahead and allow, looks like, I
This would
believe,
be for people who had not spoken last time, though.
okay. Okay. So because Angel Casilla had spoken last time,
I think that's up to you as the chair.
okay. Well, we'll go ahead and allow. I see that Heath Sato has his hand raised. If you could go ahead and allow him to communicate, that would be great.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, I also wanted to confirm that Lori wasn't alone, that none of us on Zoom could hear anything up till you called for public comment. So I don't know what was said before. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. And we had one other hand raised. Angel Castilla.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I just wanted to reiterate I 100% support all of the wonderful projects that are coming through the Arts Grant, and that Lori Buckley has done a great job at making sure that there is equity and inclusion with all the parties participating. And I would like to reiterate and expound a little bit on the comment that I made last time regarding that it's not enough for funding. I suggested that the community deserves a % for Arts Grant. And I think I didn't convey that properly in the aspect of I believe that you should continue to support the arts grants with a firm and annual commitment from the city and enact a percentage for art program, meaning that when things are going well with development, that we can have big, beautiful projects that change the face of our city. Things like the last mural project that was just installed, which the budget that is given by the city doesn't necessarily cover and wouldn't allow to do multiple projects like that, whereas a percentage for art program could supplement that. So again, thank you for your commitment to the arts, and I urge you to consider enacting a percentage for art grant in the future on top of what the city funds.
Thank you. Don't see.
Chair, seeing no more hands and nobody rushing to the podium, I will make a motion that we close the public hearing on this item.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to close the public hearing on the arts grants by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Vice Chair White. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That
Chair,
passes.
Sorry, Chair. I apologize. Last week I didn't explain that, sometimes when there's Weber State items for the arts on the agenda that I recuse myself because of my spouse's employment. I just wanted to clarify that he in no way is associated with the grant that's being given today.
Thank you. So I would look for any further discussion on the arts grants or a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion then that we adopt Resolution 2021-9.
I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to adopt proposed resolution 2021-9 and a second by Councilmember Stevens. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember Jaburka,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. That passes. Thank you. Next up, we have the fiscal year 2022 budget amendment for the strategic plan funding, and we have. I thought we had Lisa Stout. Oh, okay. Sorry. We have Miss Janine Miller-Smith here tonight.
Thank you, Chair and council members. This was actually a request, a transfer from the council office, just in case we needed some additional money for the community renewable energy program. As you know, back in a couple of years ago, I think in the 2020 budget, the council sort of projected that you would want to have some money set aside for strategic plan projects. The plan hadn't been completed yet, but you anticipated that you wanted those funds set aside. You did set aside about $630,000, and some of that has already been expended on on things like new planning notices, which you felt were really important, boxing equipment, youth competition equipment, translation services, sidewalk repairs, and streetlight upgrades. So there's about $275,000 left, and that has been in fund balance since the FY20 set aside. And so this budget amendment is to bring that $275,000 forward to the general fund in a non-departmental account, so that those funds would be available to you as additional projects from the strategic plan are identified. In addition, it would also transfer $35,278 from that fund to the council's council budget professional technical account in case there's additional need for that and for the Community Renewable Energy Program. If for some reason you choose not to approve the interlocal agreement associated with that program, that funding would just sit in our technical account for something else that you identify as an appropriate expenditure. So if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Okay. This is also a public hearing, so we'll now take public input on this item.
Can you switch it over to the attendees? Thank you.
Looks like we have one with his hand raised. Trevor Jones, go ahead. The time is now yours.
Thank you, Chair Blair, and thank you, council members. And I just wanted, it sounds from the discussion that this is a fiscal authorization for the expenditure of the money that would be required for the Community Renewable Energy Act. I'm not 100% sure if there's a separate vote on the interlocal agreement. I believe so, but my recommendation would be to pass this alongside the interlocal agreement. I've made my thoughts and feelings on the interlocal agreement and on the expenditure clear at a number of different times in the past, but I just wanted to reiterate that and thank the council for all of your hard work and time put into this consideration of the Community Renewable Energy Act. It's very heartening to me to see that there is the funding available, and that it does not appear that it would be too much of a problem or would not put the city under too much duress for this outlay. As I've stated before, I really think that this is a great value for the city in allowing us to continue forward and continue to study the effects of joining into this program and the effects on all of our residents, not just our, on everyone, especially I don't want to say the lower classes, but on people who there's some concern about this hitting harder. My understanding of this study is that it will be a big part of the study will be examining exactly what happens to that. So I would urge the council to vote yes on this funding arrangement, and I yield the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, seeing no more hands or people rushing to the podium, I would make a motion that we close the public hearing on this item.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to close the public hearing on this item by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Lopez. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. And now I would seek a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2021-39.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Stevens to adopt proposed ordinance 2021-39 and a second by Councilmember Chaburka. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. Thank you. That passes. Next up, we have the continuation of the proposed honorary street name designation, and we have Glenn Symes here tonight.
Thank you, Chair. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So thank you. As you mentioned, this is a continuation of an item that you've seen a couple of times. So I want to start with just a little bit of background and some history from how we got to the petition to how we got to tonight. So just quickly to go over the street name changes. There are two kinds of street name changes. The first is an honorary street name, and the second is the assigned street name, or just the standard name that a street would be known by. That's the legal name. These honorary street names are in addition to the street name, so they don't. Folks can use those if they want, but they're not required to the way they would be with an assigned street name. These can be brought forward by either the city engineer or by a petition by a lot owner. Typically, they're done to eliminate duplications or avoid confusion, or as the ordinance says, any other good cause. And most of the honorary names come under these other ones, since we wouldn't be eliminating a duplication with an honorary name or trying to avoid confusion. So as I mentioned, these are in addition to, so the petition tonight is a petition by Anna Keogh, who is with us this evening, to assign an honorary street name. The original petition came in as Bingham Fort Lane, and the area that would apply to would be 2nd Street from Union Pacific Railroad tracks to Washington Boulevard. So that was the original petition that came in. The Planning Commission did have a chance to take a look at this last August. They did forward a recommendation of approval to the council with a full recommendation, but they did change the length of the proposal. So instead of that Union Pacific Railroad to Washington Boulevard, they did shorten that to Century Drive to Wall Avenue, which they said more closely matched the actual boundaries of the fort at the time. So the council did receive this. The council first looked at this back in November last year. And through your discussions, you determined that you wanted the Diversity Commission to provide a review and a recommendation of the proposal. So that was done. That was sent to the Diversity Commission. They engaged with a few other folks that could provide some unique opportunities or some unique perspectives for the proposal. That included Darren Perry, who's with us this evening as well, and James Singer. And as the Diversity Commission looked at this, they felt this was not the best name for that. They recommended denial and a vote of 9-1. And the letter from the Diversity Commission and the letter from Mr. Singer provide quite a bit of background on why they made that recommendation. So if there's more questions on that, I would direct anybody to the packet material for this item for that background. After the council received that recommendation back from the Diversity Commission, the council reviewed it at a work session in November. At the time, council members were not comfortable with the proposal, partly based on the Diversity Commission's recommendation. So the council allowed the petitioner to work with the community to see if they could come up with an alternative that might address some of the issues that were expressed. So Anna Keogh did work with Mr. Perry, and they did come up with an alternative name. That name was Bingham Fort Chief Little Soldier Lane. And again, some additional information about Chief Little Soldier, who he was, and his significance is also included in the packet material. And again, that proposal limited the honorary street name to 2nd Street between Century Drive and Wall Avenue. So with that amended proposal, the council reviewed it again in April of this year, and the council felt that proposal could move to the next step, which was the public hearing and consideration. So it was a public hearing scheduled for May 25th. On May 25th, the council did hear the proposal, held a public hearing. A motion was made, but that motion to approve it failed in a 3-3 tie vote. After that vote and after that meeting, the petitioner suggested further changes to the proposal. And that change dropped Bingham Fort altogether, which was some of the issues that the Diversity Commission had. So it would just be Chief Little Soldier Way. And per the council's rules and norms, the council, with this new information, voted to reconsider the item on June 1st, and then also voted to extend the consideration of the item, which requires a public hearing. So that's why we're here tonight. The council did have a chance to take a look at it at the June 15th work session, and then a public hearing was set for tonight. So the proposal in front of you is to assign an honorary street name of Chief Little Soldier Way on 2nd Street between Century Drive and Wall Avenue. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those if I can.
I think you got it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As Glenn mentioned, we do have the petitioner here. Miss Anna Keogh is here. We'd like to invite her to speak also.
Welcome, Anna.
Good evening, everybody. The history of 2nd Street goes back hundreds of years to the summer home camping grounds of the Northwest Shoshone. 2nd Street history then progresses to the 1850s era of the pioneers, then to the era of Italian immigrants called Little Italy, and then on to the golden age of family farming, taking us up to the 1940s. We have houses on 2nd Street from all these eras, plus a 40-acre pioneer farm that was a Native American camping ground long before the arrival of the pioneers. Your approval tonight for the honorary road name Chief Little Soldier for 2nd Street will mark a monumental expansion of Ogden's efforts to support diversity awareness. What a huge accomplishment. As you have heard, advocates of 2nd Street historical preservation have partnered with Darren Perry, a leader of the Northwest Shoshone. On August 7th, you are all cordially invited to our family's Pioneer Farm, where we are hosting an event titled Meet the Shoshone. We also want to let you know that a local Ogden company, Market Star, has given our neighborhood on 2nd Street a grant for historical signs for houses. We are partnering with Market Star to plan a company service project to install the signs at each house in the near future. As some of the houses have been modified over time, we would like to put signs in front of the remaining 20 houses so that passersby will be able to quickly identify their historical value. We believe the signs will help make a unique history of 2nd Street more available to the public and increase the sense of community in our neighborhood. 2nd Street really is the oldest neighborhood in Ogden, and with your support, it can be a rich cultural resource for Ogden. Thank you for your consideration. Please vote yes to our petition for Chief Little Soldier as the honorary road name for 2nd Street. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, this is also a public hearing, so we will now accept input on the honorary street name designation. Please.
Mayor Caldwell and council and staff, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your service, and I'll be very, very brief. I'm grateful the process worked, and I'm grateful that you revisited this, and we've had a chance to work through it, and that's what I love about this process. Sometimes we don't get it right at first, but we're getting it right now. And on behalf of the Northwestern Band of Shoshones, we would be honored if you would consider that street name to be called after one of our first chiefs here in this Ogden area, Chief Little Soldier. And regardless of what decision you make, I want you to know that I appreciate you and your hard work. So I'd love a yes vote, but I understand politics too. So we'll just leave it at that. But thank you for your service.
You want to give your name for the record, by the way?
Oh, sorry. It's Darren Perry. I'm a council member for the Northwestern Band of Shoshone Nation.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you. Okay, I see we have a couple hands raised. Go ahead. Looks like Angel Castillo.
Good evening. Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I would like to thank the City Council. I would like to thank Anna Keogh, the petitioner, Darren Perry for his work, and of course the Diversity Commission for examining what is difficult work to do when you are looking at a system that you had nothing to do with creating and realizing that it has an impact and that words have meaning. And while Erastus Bingham was an amazing pioneer and did fabulous things, it's important to acknowledge the Shoshone, and it's important to acknowledge that we are living on land that wasn't ours. And this is a step to create interest of finding out who Chief Little Soldier was and the part that Ogden played in the as we move forward as a city, and maybe digging even further into who Erastus Bingham was and why he was friendly with the indigenous people that were here. This is really difficult work, and it's uncomfortable, and it's hard to look at because you didn't cause it. And it may seem like a little thing on the surface of it's just a name, but that is how perceptions are formed. And I thank you for all of the work that you put into this and all of the discussion that you had on this. And you took the time to make sure that the community was heard, that appropriate parties were heard. And that makes me really, really happy that the council is operating in such a manner, and it instills confidence in future procedures. So I urge you to vote yes on this, and I thank you for all of the hard work that you've put into this. Good evening.
Thank you. Okay, we also have Tammy Krieger, who has her hand raised. Go ahead, Tammy.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks to the council, Mayor Caldwell, Anna, the staff. Glenn, you've been tremendous, and Darren, the partnership that we've had through this endeavor has been amazing, and it has taken us as a city and individually to a broader perspective that enriches all of us. I'm very honored to be a part of the 2nd Street history. As some of you know, my husband and I have lived here almost 30 years, and we live in an old pioneer home. And although we're not LDS, we have put a lot of time and effort into maintaining this part of history, which is, like Anna said, a rich cultural resource. And so I'm very hopeful that you all will vote yes tonight, and that the progress that we're making with 2nd Street, with Weber County Heritage Foundation, we have the 1-minute videos, we have an interactive app that all people can use to find out more about the history. So we really are embarking on what can be a wonderful future and recognition of our city's history on lots of levels. And thank you tonight for your consideration, and I look forward to your positive vote. We do have one other member of our family that would like to speak, if that's all right.
Sure.
And I live in 853 Chambers Street.
Do you want him to vote yes or no for the street name? Go on. Well, she thought she knew what she wanted to say. But anyway, our granddaughter is here. Her name is Anderson, and she asked me, Grandma, are you still on the team that's voting against the condos? And I said yes, and she said she wanted to be on my team. So I thought that was cute, and I said, well, let's teach a 5-year-old about history, about how our municipality works. So your vote tonight will have long-lasting impact, and consider our future as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tammy. And your granddaughter. Okay, there's another hand raised. Looks like we have Sebastian Benitez. Go ahead, Sebastian.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for the time. Thank you to this reconciliation. I participated in that. The meeting was tied 3-3, you know. And I want to thanks to Council Hire to the motion to reconcile when they are all together, like 7 city councils. I think it's time to hear the community. I mentioned before, if the community is asking for something right, and this is something right they are asking. I know that area, but I don't live in that area, but I think it's time to make the voice of the community to hear, you know. And I know I remember 3 council vote for no, because I understand why they vote no in that time, but I think I will encourage to everyone to vote for yes, because it's time to hear the community, and that is a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Chair, seeing no more hands or people, I would make a motion that we close the public hearing on this item.
I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion to close the public hearing on this item by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Stevens. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Any further discussion or a motion?
Chair, I do have some things I'd like to say. I am impressed by the people of this neighborhood who have done the history. And I've got to say, most people would have probably just thrown up their hands and quit. But they love their neighborhood. They love the history that it has on all sides. They have been, in my experience as a planning commissioner for about 16 years before I was a council member, they've continued to weigh in on decisions of what happens in their neighborhood, and have striven to protect it and its identity and to accentuate its history. And I didn't know very much before I got to know Anna and some of the other neighborhood residents down there about this being the oldest neighborhood in the city and the history that it has. We as a city, especially as elected officials, should do all we can to help them to protect that identity, lest it just disappear into the ether. I think, those too many good things do that, just because we just lose sight and lose track and don't do the work that goes along with it. We need to partner with these people to make sure that area gets protected and highlighted for its rich history. I very much appreciate the work that Anna and several of the citizens down there have done. Appreciate Darren Perry and his efforts to come in and help to recognize that history also. I am just tickled pink, and if nobody else has anything to say, I would love to make a motion.
I have something to say. I just want to echo what you just said. because I think I agree. It's really exciting when we have the public that gets engaged with the government, with us, and when they become a part of these initiatives. I think is very cool. I remember when I started on the council. That was just something that was so important to me, and so every time we get to see that, I get excited. But particularly on this one, because of what you said, it was a little difficult, a little long, and so I also want to thank you for your efforts to keep going and not give up. Thank you.
I echo that, and the process is what it's all about, is going through and doing this process. I would like to know what's going to happen on August the 7th. I don't know if Anna and Darren have any of that information to just give us a brief idea of what's happening on that particular day. And also the plaques that you're putting on the buildings. Is there a plaque for Bingham's Fort in that area?
We probably ought to have her come to the mic.
Yeah. Anna, just because there's people listening in.
He has the mic.
Yeah. Or we can have the mic come out to you. We probably just need to have this broadcast a little louder.
There's not a plaque for the fort itself. The plaques are for houses, and we have houses from the fort era and then other eras, the other significant eras. But there is a monument right across from Century Drive to Bingham Fort that DUP and Marriott Heritage Foundation put up. So the fort is acknowledged in that monument.
What are some of the activities that you're going to have on the 7th there?
Oh, okay, I'm going to let Darren tell you that.
Thank you. We plan on having a teepee, kind of show what the way of life looked like to those First Peoples, and drum groups, dancers, storytelling, food, Shoshone food that's found in the mountains here, and how they prepared it, the activities for the kids. And so we just want it to be a family affair, and the whole community can come together and get to know their new neighbors, since we moved our tribal office to Ogden last month. So we're residents of here, and we just want to be part of the community. So
I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a good day. Ready for motion?
I'm ready for a motion.
Then, Chair, I would make a motion then that we adopt proposed resolution 2021-10.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to adopt proposed resolution 2021-10 with a second from Councilmember Stevens. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Nadolski?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Traburka?
No.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
No.
Chair Blair?
Aye. That passes. Would either of you like a moment?
I would love to, yes. I just, I think I explained this before my position. I appreciate so much all the efforts, as everyone else has said. I'm so excited that there's going to be this special event as well, and that these relationships have formed in this way. But as you know, we're reviewing the process for putting forth street names and how that should go about. So I don't feel comfortable at this time, voting for this particular initiative until we've explored that process a little bit more. The Diversity Commission asked us to look at the process to make sure it's more equitable and inclusive. And I think in this process, it really did become more so, definitely. But I just am not sure with the current parameters if, that's the way we'll go. We'll have to see what happens. But I'm really excited about all the relationships that have happened and the conversations, really. I think have been really important for our community to kind of grapple with some of these issues and think it through how we go about it. So thank you.
Yeah, and I have also made myself pretty clear in previous conversations, and I echo what Councilmember Chaburka just said. But the process has really changed, and we got the Diversity Commission involved and the Planning Commission involved, and we've listened to you and all of that you've done. I continue to say that identifiable neighborhoods are not street signs. Identifiable neighborhoods are things like you're doing with Market Star, where they're putting up information about the history of your neighborhood. And I just really think that having that identity is a better way to go than just putting a street sign up. So I applaud you for everything you have done, though. I am not, it's hard to just say no, because no doesn't mean that I don't think it's a great thing. I just no is because I really believe that the identifiable neighborhood is bigger than just a street sign. So thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to thank Anna also. Growing up, I was always taught it's easier to attract bees with honey than it is with vinegar. And I just want to say thank you for the kind manner in which you did that. And I'm thankful for all of the bees that we were able to attract through this process. And one of those is Mr. Perry. It's been an honor to work with you and get to know you. And I appreciate getting to learn from you also. So thanks, Anna, for all your hard work, and the Diversity Commission and everyone that had a part in this. Glenn worked very hard. So I appreciate everyone that had a part in this, and I'm thankful to see this move forward, and I applaud all of your hard work.
Chair, if I can kick in another little, I agree with Vice Chair White in that we've got to do a better job of identifying our neighborhoods. We've talked about that on several occasions. We've never really let anything marinate and get completely cooked with that. And perhaps it's time we did that, because I think there is a need for people to feel some pride of their neighborhood and have it be identified and identifiable in some way other than street signs. I agree that that's probably not the best approach to do this. So let's continue that conversation and get that into something that we codify and act upon.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair, can I make a comment?
Please.
I wanted to thank the Diversity Commission. I know we have Commissioner Martinez is here. Are you chair anymore? Previous chair. I remember going to a TEDx event. My wife was like MC for the event, so she wasn't one of the speakers, but one of the speakers was a Diversity Commissioner, Stacey Bernal, and she had an amazing speech. But she's a paid speaker on the topic, a professional on the topic. That's why she's on our commission. And after the event, they brought all of the speakers together for sort of a roundtable Q&A with the crowd. And someone asked Stacey, what's the best thing that we can do for issues of diversity in Ogden? And she said, I'll never forget it, but she said, when people of color who have lived these experiences share them with you, the best thing that we can do is listen. And like, I'll just never forget when she shared it. And so I am really thankful to the Diversity Commission for sharing your feedback, because there were a number of times where I was like, oh, there won't be an issue with this or that. Sure enough, I was wrong. And that's why we have a commission. I know that the process wasn't perfect. I mean, close. I agree with everything you guys just said too. I just feel like the process was certainly good enough, and that we improved along the way. And it wouldn't have been as good as it was without your help as a commission. So for all of the work that the petitioner did, and Darren and everybody else, thank you to you. And but thank you to the commission too.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, we have new business, the Community Renewable Energy Program Interlocal Agreement. And we have Jenny Miller-Smith here again.
Thank you, Chair Blair. So tonight before you, you have the consideration of a resolution approving an interlocal cooperative agreement for the Community Renewable Energy Program. So this is something that's unique in that there is no other program like this in the nation. And its goal is to serve as a model for local governments to partner with major utility and hopefully provide this customer choice model when it comes to the delivery of utilities. Right now, there are 12 communities that have signed on to this interlocal agreement. Signing on as participants are Alta, Cottonwood Heights, Holiday, Springdale, and Kearns. And signing on as anchors, and we'll discuss that in a minute, we have Grand County, Summit County, Castle Valley, Park City, Mill Creek, Moab, and Salt Lake City. Just some of the goals that this program is designed to provide is just giving options, renewable options for customers, and allowing communities to participate within the public service process to determine their own renewable rates. And then if those rates are agreeable, these governments, participating entities will adopt an ordinance, and then Rocky Mountain Power's customers will have this availability of this renewable energy. In communities with ordinances, individual customers can opt out of the program to remain on standard rates. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about opt-out versus opt-in. Over the years, council members have had various programs presented to them versus opt-in versus opt-out, and generally speaking, have not liked opt-out programs. In this case, when it says opt-out, the way it's designed currently is that there will be 2 notices from Rocky Mountain Power, and then that will automatically put all the customers in on these new rates. And then the customers will experience 3 billing cycles, any time of which they can opt out. The costs associated with those noticing are separate from the costs with the program. And right now for Ogden, they are estimated to be about $30,000. So that's in addition to the program costs. But that only covers the mailing. And so I think if going forward the council decides to do this, that we may want to discuss some other options and some additional outreach to our low-income folks, are those who don't speak English, and others who may otherwise be disadvantaged and not notice those notices, to give them a real opportunity to opt out if that's what they choose. I just kind of to check, so the Blue Skies program that Rocky Mountain Power offers is an opt-in program. So you can just go in and buy that if you want to participate in that program. And so I got some information from Rocky Mountain Power, and I was it surprised me a little bit. So in 2019, only 6.4% of Ogden Rocky Mountain Power customers were enrolled in that Blue Skies program. But in 2020, it more than doubled to 13.1. And so I think that was an interesting, just really quick doubling of that program. So it does show that there's an interest in this kind of renewable energy. So just to give a quick timeline review, we've reviewed this a couple of times. 2019, the legislature passed HB 411, which enabled the Community Renewable Program. It was called the Community Renewable Act, something like that. Sorry, I haven't got it all there. The Utah Public Service Commission then adopted rules, and that was immediate. That was before all of the communities had signed on. And as one of the requirements from HB 411, communities did need to adopt a resolution by December of 2019, to even be considered to participate in this program. There were 23 communities that adopted the goals of 100% renewable by 2030. And as I mentioned, 12 of those 23 have now signed on. If Ogden signed on, Ogden would be the 13th. Since January 2020 through March 2021, there's been a group meeting every month to kind of develop a governance agreement. That is something that's also required by HB 411 and the rules. We're at July 2021. This is where a decision point, an important decision point, whether or not the council and Ogden wants to sign on to this governance agreement and pay the phase 1 costs. What this does is allow basically Ogden a seat at the table to work and help design that utility program. I think, just so you know, a group of those cities, communities that have already signed on have already started meeting. They've already formed a board and identified board members. And today was actually their second board meeting. And they had quite a long discussion about this program design. And it seems like a very significant element of this program. They're going to set up a committee to work on this program design, and hopefully those committee members would be the more technically savvy individuals that are involved in the on the board. And so it's really important. So they were going to vote on who should be on this committee today, and I requested that they postpone that vote until August, just in case Ogden wants to participate, because I felt after hearing the discussion that this was a critical part of the program, and being involved in that design is going to be what establishes the rates going forward. So that's what July 2021 is. That's what's before you right now. However, it's not the last chance you have, the decision that you have to make. So you could opt not to approve this resolution right now, and you could just wait. I could continue to monitor the meetings, and then in January 2022 is sort of the drop dead date, and that's when you would have to have adopted a resolution and pay the phase 1 costs in order to be involved in the utility program. There wouldn't be any more changes, so there wouldn't be any more input on that utility program design. And then that program design is submitted with a signed utility agreement to the Public Service Commission. Well, another important element of the legislation and the rules is that it requires a plan from each community to address low-income programs and assistance. So one other element of the board, another committee that they're going to create, is a group to address this low-income programs and assistance. It doesn't necessarily mean subsidies. It's just talking about other things that we can do to make those people that need assistance aware of existing programs or even increase others. So the committee would sort of create a menu of items that each community could then choose from and sort of tailor a program that works best for their individual community. So July 2022, participating local governments would pay their phase 2 costs. It's also another opportunity to leave or exit the agreement, because if you don't pay the phase 2 costs, then any community that doesn't pay would automatically be deemed out of the agreement. They're hoping that by submitting the utility agreement to the Public Service Commission in January, that 9 months later they might get approval of the program. And then that means that within 90 days, local government must adopt an ordinance, and then the agency would then move to request proposal for renewable energy resources. If the local government doesn't pass the ordinance again, that's a hard out. So the interlocal agreement itself covers these things. So it's basically the purpose to establish a community renewable energy agency. So it's a separate agency, and then outline decision-making processes, the costs, the resource solicitation, and other program issues. Each participating community has one board seat, and it must be an elected official, but that there can also be an alternate appointed in place of elected official, not in place, but to serve in case the elected official is not available. And so that's really important that it has to be an elected official to serve, but the alternate does have the same voting rights as the elected official on the board. It outlines some pretty specific voting ways, because they're anticipating maybe some differences on how things might happen. So most issues would be decided by majority, but there could be board members that call for a weighted vote, and that's when the community's participation percentage comes into play. I would point out, I know that a lot of the comments that you received relate to the cost of renewable energies and the fact that those costs are going down all the time, and I think that's true. But the cooperative agreement does anticipate, just in case, that if there is a certain purchase of renewable energy is going to add 10% to the rates, that it requires a supermajority to vote. So the costs, they picked kind of what they felt was like a fair but maybe a little bit excessive cost for $700,000, so they knew that they would have enough money. And that represents $300,000 for legal costs, $200,000 for Rocky Mountain Power's review and filing, and $200,000 for covering the state's costs, because they also hire experts to review the programs. For Ogden's community cost participation, we're at 10.2%, or 71.5 is the total cost that we would pay for participating in the program. As I mentioned, that does not include any communication costs. An anchor community, so that amount, that 10.2 and the $72,000 was calculated on all 23 participating communities. And as you've seen, not all of those communities are participating. And so they devised this idea of an anchor community which would agree to pay any amounts not covered that were assigned to other jurisdictions. And that sort of helped them not have to recalculate the numbers all the time. So Ogden's is $71,474, no matter what, unless you choose to be an anchor community, and then you would pick up additional costs based on your percentage of against everyone else's. So withdrawal from the agreement, before July 31st, there's no requirements. Before January 31st, 2022, if there's no resolution, there's no requirements. If you adopted a resolution today or before July 31st, then we'd have to have a 30-day written notice, and you would forfeit any of the funds that were paid in. If you went ahead, if before application to the PSC, so if you included, then it's sort of the same, 30-day written notice, forfeiture of any funds. After the ordinance that would be adopted after the Public Service Commission has issued its order and the rates, withdrawal is not allowed. You are in the program. And the term of the agreement is 50 years. So that is the interlocal agreement, and just a quick review of the program. So I don't know if you have any questions.
I had a few, but you answered them when you finally got to the answer. So I think you did a good job. So
I've got a quick question. Under the representation of the person that's voting, we had talked about maybe asking someone from Weber State to attend. Would that still be a possibility? Or they wouldn't be able to vote, or how would that work?
Yeah, so I think it's a public meeting, so anybody can attend. And so if we want them involved in the committees, we may have to have some discussion with legal about how to make that happen. So that's kind of unknown at this point. Hopefully you saw the letter from President Mortensen offering the services of the Weber State Sustainability Group, and it already had some discussions with Justin Owen up there about his availability. So we can certainly work through that, and I definitely think that we would want somebody with that level of expertise involved in the discussions if you choose to go forward.
Thank you.
I did have a question that I remembered.
Go ahead.
You talked a lot about the Public Service Commission's involvement and Rocky Mountain Power. Certainly some hard rates are going to have to come out at some point. It sounds like we're going to be knee deep into the thing before we even know that. Is that?
Well, I think they're hoping that by January so the program development is going to help at least identify where the rates might be. Now, it won't be final, I think, until Public Service Commission approves them. But I think that's part of the program development is to come up.
So that is the expectation that we'll know what the costs are in January.
I think so.
Is that dependent on how many people opt out? Is it dependent on how many communities are in? Does it how many things?
So I think what they'll do is guess how many will participate and make a good guess. They Rocky Mountain Power probably has some experience in guessing who might participate in this and who might not. And so what you're getting at and what we don't know is if somehow our participation, a community's participation falls short, what happens to that difference?
That was part of that question, yes. Okay, thank you.
I have a couple. Sorry. So at the very beginning, you said after 3 billing cycles, during those 3 billing cycles, they can opt out.
That's correct.
Is that their only opportunity to opt out?
So they can opt out later, but with a penalty. Okay. And that's part of the program development is what that penalty looks like.
Okay.
So it could be, and they also discussed about whether or not to penalize different groups, at different rates. So if you do have a large industrial user that pulls out, that might carry a different penalty than just a residential user. But again, that's all part of the program design. Those are just things that people are talking about.
Okay. I have a couple more, sorry. And then, so tonight we're discussing the first phase, roughly 36,000.
That's correct.
The next phase, which would be due in next July.
It'll be due in
January.
No, the payment would be due in July.
The payment would be due next July, correct?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Would we take action again before that, or does this approve that 36,000 also?
You'd have to approve that again because we only approved 36 tonight, and with the budget amendment. In terms of the budget, there would probably be an additional action in January because there's this utility agreement that needs to be approved before it goes to the Public Service Commission.
Okay, and that was my last question. So our last chance to pay the first 36,000 is in January.
That's correct.
And so sounds like maybe waiting for a little bit more information until then. We'd still have that opportunity to wait, to not do it right now, wait till we can do it, send it in December, January, and then still make and then if we want to move forward, we're still available to do it.
That's right.
Next
the
July
only difference
also
would be you wouldn't be able to be involved in you wouldn't have a seat at the table, you wouldn't have a seat on the board, you wouldn't be involved in the program development or any of the other committees that are established.
And sorry, this is my last one. And if we choose not to by January, then those other anchor communities would have to come up with our $36,000.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other last questions?
That covered my for now.
Okay. Can I ask if? Please. Okay. Well, one other comment. I just wanted to add my voice to the previous discussion about inviting Weber State to participate in the process with us. If we pass this, for me, that feels like a requirement, an absolute must-have. We've got tons of good folks, but they've got some expertise I don't think we have, and they would really help round us out at the table. As far as program development, I had a lot of questions and concerns prior to tonight that those same Weber State experts helped answer for me. And I really feel like the program development and seat at the table is really important for all the same concerns that I actually have. A lot of my concerns prior to that meeting and discussion, I kind of felt like in my mind were reasons to say no, but after talking with them, I felt like those same reasons were actually reasons to say yes tonight. So for those reasons, I think it's really important that Weber State participate as a true partner that are at the table with us. Maybe they don't have a vote because that's not possible, but I don't think it would be hard for them to be lock and step with us and our goals and what we're trying to accomplish for our people in Ogden, because we are clearly different than the communities that are in the program and have already opted in. So I think we have to have a voice at the table at that point because of those differences.
I'd like to go to the cost, Janine. The $71,000. When is that due?
So that's the total cost. So the first would be due either now, July, or January 2022. So half of it would be, so $36,000 is due then, and then the final phase payment is due July 2022.
So it's in two payments then.
Yes.
Is that right? And that's based on 23 participating cities, communities?
It was calculated based on 23
so if there's less
cities
than that, then our amount may go up.
No, because the anchor communities have agreed to pick up any of the excess or any of that unpaid for other communities that choose not to participate.
And so we're not an anchor, is what you're saying.
Well, it's up to you whether you want to be an anchor or not. That would probably be a separate resolution, but
in some of the participating communities, there were several counties, but Weber County was not listed. Is that right?
No,
that's right.
Just Grand and Summit.
Yeah, I guess we don't know why Weber County wasn't participating for this.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the initial one would be they wouldn't have adopted that resolution in 2019.
Yeah.
And they couldn't have joined later.
Yeah.
Do you have something?
I just have more than anything, it's just a comment, and I think over the last couple of days we've received some emails that have actually helped me even solidify my decision, at least for tonight. And if we don't have a seat at the table, just even things like amending the actual bill would be difficult. So. And my guess is, and I don't have a good answer to why the other county or why Weber County didn't, but I think it's only for unincorporated areas. So I don't know. I mean, Summit County has a large unincorporated area. So.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
I don't think so, but I'll just make a comment. I mean, I think everyone heard my stance. I just believe we really need to be actively involved in those discussions. And it's beyond my capacity to understand all the questions that need to be asked. And we have a partner that's willing to help support us in doing that. And so I don't see why we would not do that. I know it's an investment. And we might eventually determine it's not the right fit for us, but we would have an expert that's helping us to determine that. And, I think it's worth that relatively small investment to find that out through the process, because this is going to be our only opportunity to be involved. So.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? I would like to thank Janine for her work on that. That's a lot to take in, and
Yeah, I did have one other thought, maybe clarification on the rates. So part of the discussion about the program design is that they wouldn't necessarily go from 0 to 100 in one fell swoop, right? They're going to be buying renewables in chunks and moving up to that 100% in 2030. So the initial rates may be sort of estimated from that program design, but the increases that might come with the purchase of those additional renewable energy pieces might change. And so I didn't want to leave you with the idea that all of a sudden we'd have all of the information by January.
So the renewal purchase depends on how many participating people they have in the program. Is that right? They cover their
No,
renewable energy?
it's going to be determined by how the program's designed. So how much renewable are you going to buy? How much solar? How much wind? Is that, is there, how much is going to be part of that? How much might be related to batteries? How much are they going to scale? How fast are they going to scale up? And, when's the best time to buy this particular type of energy versus another? That's what they're going to be doing in the program design.
So if we have a rate increase, do they have to go back to the commission to get that approved?
I don't think so, because I'm not sure about that. It does say that they can increase them once a year, but not more than that. Now, whether that has to go back through the commission, I don't know. That's such a long process. That seems
that the Public Service Commission always approves rate increases. It's just always the case.
And that's probably true. I just haven't heard anybody say that.
So we could go every year to have a rate increase, or we could go every 4 or 5 years. It depends on how many units they buy.
Yeah, again, it would all depend on how quickly they start buying those energy sources. Thank you.
Can I ask you one other question?
Sure.
About the weighted vote? I don't know if it's in this packet or last week's discussion, but I remember seeing a chart of kind of where we were in our percentage, and I believe we were near one of the higher ones, which would help us in a weighted vote, I'm assuming.
That's true, except that because anchor communities will then be paying more, they will actually, have some increase to their weight, because they're going to be paying more, so their weight will have more. So initially, that 10.11% or whatever it was, that's our weighted vote, but it's sort of going to shift as people, as communities either come in or drop out, and then ultimately the anchors, we'll have to see how it all falls out after it's set in stone.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
Chair, do you feel ready for a motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion to adopt proposed resolution 2021-11.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt proposed resolution 2021-11 by Councilmember Chaburka and a second by Vice Chair White. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
No.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Yes.
Councilmember Heyer?
No.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye. That passes. Do you want a moment to explain? Or?
I think I've been fairly clear in my position, but I would like to reiterate it at this point. There are some environmental scientists that I've listened to. One is Michael Schellenberger. He's he's a U.S. guy. And then Bjorn Longborg. He's from, I think, Sweden. He's part of the Copenhagen group of people that study climate change and those kind of things. And both of those men have convinced me with data that they've collected that wind and solar really are not the solution to this climate change problem that we are experiencing. Both of them acknowledge that, that it is an issue, but that it's a poor remedy, and have suggested that perhaps we ought to be looking at something that does have some long-term effect. Both of them particularly like nuclear power. I know that Rocky Mountain Power is working with Colorado, some areas in Colorado to work on that. I could get behind something like that. I think that because that does put out power consistently, it's reliable. It's it could suit our needs very well. Because of the opt-out nature of this proposal and it's being the only option, it feels tyrannical, since we'll be making choices for people who are otherwise unaware of even what's going on. And they will, I think many people will find themselves getting involved. They're having us make the decision for them to be involved, and it will cost them money, and I just can't get over that. We know that there are many people that are not aware and uninformed and have lots bigger concerns about things in their life than how much their power bill just went up, but really can't afford the power increase. The other issues that I think is that those people who are concerned about this, there are the Blue Sky programs, the subscriber solar. They can buy solar panels for their own homes and participate in that way, and feel good about their process there. As I have seen this and as I've seen how it will happen, I just don't see it being a good fit for Ogden, in as much as we have such a huge share of our power use is commercial. And we have such a large population of people that live below the poverty level. I just think it's a terrible fit for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I'm in favor of finding out resources of having energy. There are several factors that led to that no vote. One of them is the consideration of low-income and single-wage families, the impact that it's going to have on those individuals. There's too many questions of what the rate's going to be and what the expense is going to be going down the road. The other aspect is that we have an opportunity in 2022 in January to reconsider and look at the information and reconsider of coming into the program if the information was more favorable in that direction. I'm also a belief that Rocky Mountain Power is in the energy business, and I think over the years they will continue to find resources that would be able to enhance our opportunity of using renewable energy. And I have faith in them that they will have that opportunity to do that. And in that case, then we will still enjoy renewable energy at that expense. But the money has already been set aside, so in January of 2022, we still would have the funds to participate in the program.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I just feel compelled to say a few words, probably less than 30 seconds, because there are a lot of people listening. Go ahead. You can push the button. And this is not a rebuttal to my colleagues that voted no in any way. I just want to say that doing something is better than doing nothing. That's my stance. That's my approach. That's my belief. And I feel a sense of urgency to take action in sustainability initiatives and efforts in our community. We had a meeting, Ben and I had a meeting with some folks from Weber State last week, and it was very educational for me. And I realized that this is good for humanity. This is good for the world. So I also agree that there might be other better things in the future, like you said, Councilmember Heyer. But until we have something tangible on the table that I believe that we can jump on and enact, I want to do something now. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. I can just give you the look, right? I was just going to say that I'd be happy to, if I'm still an elected official, to serve in that capacity. And maybe other people are interested too. And if it works for my personal schedule, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you. Okay. I would just like to thank everyone for that. All the work that went into it. Like I said, I know Janine that was given to her by Amy as a parting gift. So she picked that up and ran. So I appreciate her hard work and getting up to speed on that. And that this is a tough one for me. I understand both sides, and it's hard to, it is hard to make a decision that far in advance. And I agree. I feel that it's, as was mentioned, it's good to do something, but I'm not sure that this is the only thing we can do or the only thing to do. So it's a step, and I'm willing to take that step, but I agree that there are more things to consider and other things that we need to consider and watch those very closely. And if that means us having a seat at the table and being in charge of those things, then that's important also. So I appreciate all the information that was given to us, both through council and staff and also through, I don't want to say the numerous, but the emails that we were able to receive. So I do appreciate all of that, and thank you.
Numerous.
Numerous, yes. More than. So it was
coordinated.
Yes.
I don't think numerous is a large enough number.
No.
I didn't either. That's what I was saying.
You can say many.
But thank you. So I don't know if there's, but
Chair. Oh,
yeah,
I'm
please.
sorry. I was going to make a comment when you're done, though.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I learned in our meeting with Weber State and Councilmember Lopez that I wanted to share with my colleagues. I go into a lot of our decisions, and I know that you guys do too, worried about and considering and thinking about people, right? That's what we're here for. We serve others, and we ought to do so selflessly. And serving others means listening to others too. And I learned in that meeting with the Weber State folks that, they have the same thing. They feel the same thing in their heart, and that their motives come from the same place. And that if we make this modest investment tonight, which we've done, and the information is hurtful to people of Ogden, I think there are a lot of people that we got numerous emails from that wouldn't want to proceed if it's going to hurt folks. And I think that's an important thing to consider. This is not a partisan issue. This is not a political this or that. This is people putting their best foot forward to help people in the best way they possibly can. And we all might feel a little bit differently as to how we can accomplish that. But I just wanted to share that there are a lot of people on the pro side of this issue who have always been on the pro side of this issue who are even more pro about people and their well-being. So that's what really convinced me that we as a community needed to have a seat at the table, is that we needed experts from Weber State by our side speaking on behalf of those that need it the most who don't have a seat at the table, because we are different. So anyway, thanks for everybody that reached out to us, especially those who were willing to just sit down and have incredibly candid and cordial, really professional and caring conversations with us, because all we were wanting to do was to answer the questions that we had so that we can make the right decision for Ogden and so that we can lead with a clear conscience. So thank you, everybody.
Okay, next up is public comments. Brandon, do you want to go ahead and explain one more time how to participate in public comments?
There might be some in the chambers.
I know. Well,
Thank you, Chair. To participate in public comments, you can do so if you are obviously here with us in the chambers, but if you can also do it virtually via Zoom by using the raise hand feature found at the bottom of the application. And if you're watching on Facebook and you would like to participate in this in the public comment period, you need to join us via Zoom, and there is a delay. So if you want to do that, do so immediately. You can find the link to Zoom on our agenda, which can be found at ogdencity.com/citycouncil. And if you use the raise hand feature, Chair Blair will call on you and we'll go from there.
thank you. We have a couple in the chambers. Let's go ahead and take those first.
Thank you, Chair Blair and council members. My name is Priscilla Martinez. I'm a resident here of Ogden, and I'm also running for City Council District 3. Ogden is evolving. It's changing. This is a great opportunity for Ogden to be innovative, to lead in renewable energy efforts. Obviously, with the opportunity that residents can opt out. This is our responsibility to the next generation. And that is to transition to cleaner energy and air. And I agree with Janine that we must go out to the community and make sure that those individuals that maybe don't obtain the same information the way we do are a part of this. Because we have low income, because we have fixed income in Ogden City, we must have a seat at the table. And I appreciate those that have voted to have that position at the table to make decisions and maybe address those concerns that other council members have. How is this going to affect the rest of our community? So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, Alice Mulder. I'm a resident of Ogden. I am also part of the sustainability team at Weber State, but I'm here as myself and resident. Thank you. Thank you so much to those of you who have voted yes to take this second step and reinforce the commitment that you all made as a council in 2019 toward net renewable electricity by 2030. I think it's absolutely critical that Ogden be a leader in this and be a leader for Northern Utah. And in fact, while I know there's been some concern, Salt Lake City, Summit County, Grand County, these other areas that are not Northern Utah, to me, I feel really confident that our neighbors around us in Northern Utah are going to really wish they had been a part of this whole effort. But with our example, I think they'll be pursuing ways to seek clean, renewable energy themselves. I wanted to just make a couple of quick comments in addition to my thanks for all your efforts and Janine's efforts. I know it's a maze to try and understand all of these issues and the complexities. And I too rely on Justin Owen at Weber State, who and our other energy folks and crew. I wanted to make one comment just about Blue Sky as a clarification. The Blue Sky program is a great program in itself, but it's a choice to add on. It's not a choice to have the electricity you're using otherwise be renewable. So it's in some sense that is only available to those who can pay more, right? So that's also something I think that's worth keeping in mind. And it also doesn't push for new renewable generation, which is what this program we hope will be doing, the new Community Renewable Energy Program. I absolutely echo your concern for people, and thank you, Councilman Nadolski, for commenting and seeing that that's ultimately what we're about. We're about other people, but also our planet. I mean, we are one and the same. We live in buildings, and if we were all sitting outside in the heat and the smoke, I think the urgency of these issues would feel even more omnipresent, right? Or upon us. But we live in a way that we feel a little removed from the environment sometimes. but we're not. We're part and parcel of it that makes up our bodies, the molecules in our air and our water and so forth. So it's really critical that as we protect our environment, we're protecting ourselves, and we want to protect all of those lives of all incomes and all types and all flavors. And I'm very glad that we have and that you got the formal commitment from Weber State for help with outreach. We absolutely are committed to that and wanting to help communicate if the program proves to be what works for Ogden and we get to that stage of outreach. So just thank you very much for your efforts. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm so excited about what could come in the future.
Thank you.
She did that right on time.
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. This has been quite the meeting and quite the work session. There's been lots of real talk, real challenging talk, and we can do hard things. And I'm very pleased with how we voted for approving the street renaming, although I echo and hear Councilmember White's concerns about it not being a perfect process, but I'm hoping that that will continue to move forward. And I am thrilled to death about you supporting this next stage on the road to renewable energy for Ogden. This is a chance to do something big. I've spent a lot of time talking to people and working with people at Weber State to make sure that we were able to get Weber State to cut a whole lot of red tape in a very fast manner to commit to being able to support this program. Weber State University is a Carnegie Institute, and they are pledged. It's part of their charter to serve the community, and this is a perfect opportunity. I so appreciate that you were worried about low-income folks. That's very, very important. And I appreciate that you're worried about cost, because I don't want to see anybody being cavalier with our tax dollars. I think that all of the objections that you had were extremely valid, and I'm glad that you were very open with them so that the community could come together and try to work with you to provide a way to overcome those objections. And I also agree with Councilmember Lopez. I hear what you're saying, Councilmember Heyer, and you're absolutely right that this is not the be-all, end-all solution. But to quote you, the best time to plant a tree is right now, because we missed 20 years ago. And I think if we didn't take this step and didn't put that commitment forward, we would miss that opportunity. So thank you so much for voting to support Ogden and sustainable energy, and thank you for being hesitant with fully committing without knowing the facts. That's good work. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more in the chambers. Okay, so we have a few joining us virtual. Looks like Heath Sato is first. Go ahead, Heath. The time is yours.
Hi, Heath Sato, Ogden resident. It was disheartening to hear that our hesitancy to act sooner on the energy program is already slowing decisions down on this. And as usual, I'm disappointed that the administration has chosen to not lead on this at all. I agree with Councilmember Nadolski that we have to have a place at the table. Councilmember Heyer quoted Bjorn Lomborg, a climate change denialist, who has said that, quote, global warming is by no means our main environmental threat. It should be known that Lomborg has been formally accused of scientific dishonesty by a group of environmental scientists. He has a PhD, but it's in political science. He's not an environmental scientist. I was very disappointed to hear that unqualified voice brought into this conversation at all. Look, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that traps heat. That's not a controversial statement. That's settled science. Also settled science is that we are creating huge amounts of carbon dioxide. And contrary to what some claim, it's not just cow farts and volcanoes. For one, it's actually cow belches that are problematic, but that only makes up about 5% of emissions from things humans have created. And yes, volcanoes pump out about 200 million tons of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere every year. We've always had volcanoes, though, and our planet can handle that. But human-generated automotive and industrial activities pump out some 24 billion tons of CO2 emissions every year, over 100 times what volcanoes can create. It's science, it's real, it's fact that we are heating up our environment. A large part of those emissions are produced by generating energy. And I am sure that I don't have to remind you that we are even this week dealing with some record-level heat issues. I know there are cost concerns, and that's why we need to be at the table for these discussions. The cost of being at the table for this part of this discussion is 1/3,000th of our annual budget. We have been debating about whether it's worth spending the price of replacing the sidewalks in front of about 15 homes to have a say in how we deal with literally saving the lives of future generations. Look, the sidewalk in front of my house has had yellow spray paint on it for as long as I've owned the place. I will gladly put off bugging you about it for a few more years if it means we have a seat at the table in these discussions. Thank you so much to each of you that supported this. Thanks. Good night.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sebastian Benitez. Go ahead, Sebastian.
Hello, guys. My name is Sebastian Benitez from OGDEN. I can't pass this conversation. Besides, I am a business owner, Besides, I have the degree in business administration. I am an electrician, and I received my education in electrical system in Frankfurt, in Germany. And I worked so many years. I think it's 11 years I worked with a community, Indian community in South America, installing solar system to have the opportunity, these people to have energy, processing the water, to clean up the water filter system water. And I am so glad to hear from Luis Lopez saying, okay, we have to do something. We have this opportunity. I would love to help in any kind advice about solar system in the city. I approve, I support, and I agree to have something beside solar energy too, like trees. I understand what the council higher mentioned about it's not the solution, but it's something to help. We need a lot of trees. We need a lot of energy, solar energy, wind energy to help this problem we have right now. And I agree, and I am so happy to hear this conversation, and I please you guys to go in this program. We need this program. If $78,000 is the problem, me and my family, we will donate that money for the city to be in the program, like the trees too. Here is not the problem money. Here the problem is we need to do something, and solar energy is one of the best options, and in the same time, trees. We need more trees in our city and in the world, because that is the only solution to clean up the air. Thank you so much for your help, and thank you for your vote for yes in this situation.
Thank you, Sebastian. Next up, we have David Timmerman. Go ahead, David.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to those people who supported this tonight, especially to you, Chair Blair, for climbing on board of this endeavor of ours as a community to try to, if not change the world, at least show that we support that change. And I know it wasn't easy, and I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's continued to support it. And that tonight was really important because, as has already been covered, we still have a seat in part of this design and progress going forward, and with the Weber State pros involved, that's going to help us even more. So thanks to everyone. I appreciate very much the hard work you do, and thank you for passing this. Good night.
Thank you. Next up, we have Trevor Jones. Go ahead, Trevor.
Hello, thank you, Chair Blair and everyone. I've had a lot of thoughts. I'll probably end up sending an email to all of you with everything I can't fit in 3 minutes. But first of all, thank you. Just a few thoughts. I know there's been a lot of concern over what low-income folks are going to do here. It's a very, very valid concern. I completely agree with it, and I think it would be imprudent if we were not thinking of them. But a couple of things to make mention of that. One, this whole discussion has been under the assumption that energy rates are going up. For people who participate in the program, I think chances are, honestly, I mean, this is just me. This is just a gut feel, a guess. I'm somewhat well informed about this, but my guess would be 50-50 chance that they stay the same or even go down for participants in this program, because we are now entering an era where it is cheaper to build a new utility solar farm than it is to run an existing coal power plant. And that depends on the details, of course, but we continue to see drastic declines in the cost of solar power, wind power. It's really great. I think that is probably really the only shot that we have of that and nuclear, if nuclear gets on board. And to the point, I should say also, of council member, I wasn't quite sure if it was council member Heyer or Stevens who talked about nuclear. I am all for nuclear if they can get the cost down. Nuclear itself is a very interesting and a very much of a good idea in theory, but the devil is in the details there as well. We're going to be getting a new nuclear power plant from Bill Gates TerraPower here in Wyoming. It'll be coming online hopefully by about 2030. I'm really super curious to see if that pans out, if they can get the cost down. But in the meantime, solar and wind is what we've got. The last thing I want to mention here is that I really expect low-income folks will understand and support clean energy because they understand the significance of climate change. They are not as insulated from it. I was at a Rocky Mountain Power Net metering hearing not too long, or probably about a year ago now, and he had no way to insulate himself from the heat and the poor air quality that was occurring even then. And so, oh, hey, Lizzie. My daughter just walked into the room, so I apologize for that. But she is the main reason that I do this. And let me just close out by saying thank you for your vote today on behalf of myself and on behalf of future generations who follow. Thanks, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Jennifer Bodine. Jennifer, go ahead.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Great, thanks.
Can you hear me okay? So I am Jennifer Bodine. I live and work in Ogden City, and my comments are super brief. It's mostly that I want to thank every single one of you for taking the time. It's been a long journey, and we still have some way to go, for asking all of these amazing and great questions, and for the vote tonight to move on from program participant to program shaper. By signing on to this agreement, you secure that seat at the table. I know that Ogden has lots of concerns and questions, and now you'll be able to have those be a part of the process to get those questions and concerns addressed for our citizens and for our folks. And then also, I just simply want to reiterate what President Mortensen said and what Alice said in her comments previously, that we're here to support you. As an energy and sustainability staff member at Weber State, we're committed to lending our support, to attend meetings, to do program analysis, assist with the negotiation, modeling ratepayer impacts, and assisting with that community education outreach. So I just, wanted to know that we're here to help you advocate on behalf of Ogden City and all of its citizens. We bleed purple, we love our university, but we also love very much our hometown, and we want Ogden City feel supported through this process. So thank you all again for your time. Thank you, Ogden City staff. Janine, thank you so much. Please don't hesitate to let us know how we can help you with the next steps.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Tammy Krieger. Go ahead, Tammy.
Hi, Rick. It's Rick and Tammy. Go ahead, Rick.
This is Rick. I live at 159 West 2nd Street in Ogden, Utah. To the Rocky Mountain Power meeting we had.
Are you there, Tammy?
Yes, can you hear us?
We can, yep, thanks.
Okay, go ahead, babe.
Okay. Yes, I went to the Rocky Mountain Power meeting that they had. When was it, last year or so? And they were talking about closing down a coal-fired plant and how people were going to lose their jobs. But the innovation that's out there, I mean, all it is a transfer station. They can convert it to wind or solar or whatever, and use that $20 billion that the fossil fuel industry gets for subsidies and re-educate these people. The technology, every time I've seen it come about, from cell phones to whatever, they always talk about how much this fee is going to be. Well, whenever technology gets out there, the industry just explodes. The profits that are going to come out of this would be exponential. I mean, seriously, we're losing if we don't get on this. And Ogden is a hub for technology and innovation. And the money that we'd be losing, because it all sits right here. And we could control the market, not just the market, but we could actually get some clean energy. And as far as low income, it's going to pay for itself. Those prices will come down. Thank you.
This is Tammy, and I just want to reiterate thanks to everyone who voted yes, because 2 weeks ago during the city meeting, we listened to the fire marshal, we listened to the water master, and there really is no denying climate change. What we're witnessing now, what we're experiencing now, our daughter has not been able to go outside without a mask on for years because of poor air quality in Ogden. We have got to take actions individually, collectively, and thank you as a municipality so that Ogden can be a leader in making this positive change for all of us going forward. We thank you, and our children and our children's children thank you for moving forward on this. Have a great night.
Thank you, Tammy. Next, we have Bonnie Christiansen.
Hello, my name is Bonnie Christiansen, as you said, and Ogden is my home. And I'm very grateful for your consideration and the vote, as Ogden now has the opportunity to play a major role in shaping this pioneering program. I've heard that you wanted to ensure that our most vulnerable citizens are represented and protected, and I wholeheartedly support this effort. And because addressing this low-income question is an imperative for our city, I think we can lead that discussion in innovative and practical ways to ensure that residents of all income ranges gets the best rates, and or we can help them have an easy access to the program that best fits their values and their wallets. So I believe that Ogden at the table shaping these decisions is really going to put us in a position that if we decide to move forward, that when we do that in January, when we have that decision, it will be with the best possible terms for our community. Participating in shaping CREAN is going to position us as Utah's northernmost clean energy leader, and if we go forward, and I hope we celebrate that. And we really couldn't have better timing. As people have said, the cost of renewables have plummeted, spurring renewables to be quickly growing energy resource here at home and across the world. And one close example is Provo. Conservative, risk-averse Provo is now turning to low-carbon renewable energy, and I quote them. They said, Provo City has decided that low-carbon electricity can clean the air, help the environment, and save money. And that's the end of the quote. And they are moving forward. Last year, they reached a 39% renewable, low-carbon renewable goal. This year, with an impressive solar farm, they will hit 46%, and they're on track to be at 54% by 2022. And they're not stopping there. So I know many people are worried about the damage to our climate, and the cities are already paying for these impacts. But we really looks like we can take responsibility for our impacts, make a difference, and maybe possibly save some money along the way in the long term. So I just really want to thank you for the time that you've looked at this and the decision that you made tonight to participate in the renewable energy interlocal agreement. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Lynn Carroll. Go ahead, Lynn.
Hi, I'm Lynn Carroll. I live in Ogden, and I'm so proud to live in Ogden, where we're joining this program. I am not going to be as good a speaker as the previous people, so I'll leave it at thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Lynn. Next, we have Jenny Nagy. Go ahead, Jenny.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm going to follow Lynn's lead. My name is Jenny Nagy. I live in Ogden on behalf of myself and my family. I want to thank the council for making the decision to take the next step on HB 411. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jeremy Shinoda. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy Shinoda, Ogden resident. Just wanted to thank you for taking another step forward towards 100% renewable. I think you've positioned Ogden very well going forward and giving us a competitive advantage relative to our neighbors. Let's say Weber State signs on and does 100% renewable. Students are more likely to go to that university. Let's say, some of our major employers, Oatly, Amersports, they're going to attract employees. I'm more likely to shop at a business that signs on to 100% renewable. So, what you've given us is one step closer to giving us the choice, giving our businesses and residents a choice to choose where we get our power. And that choice means everything to me. Thanks again, and have a good night.
Thank you. Next, we have a Carrie, I believe it's France, Carrie France. Go ahead, Carrie.
That's right. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Carrie France. I'm a co-director of Weber State's new environmental science program, but I'm speaking as a resident. I really love attending these meetings because they're always so thoughtful and respectful, and they're a good respite from the political divide that we're so often told is occurring in this country. I want to thank those of you who voted to stay at the negotiating and planning table for the Community Renewable Energy Program. I hear and applaud your concerns and the efforts you've taken to understand this issue, and as others have stated, many of your concerns are exactly why it's so important that Ogden have a leadership role in this program. The switch to a non-fossil fuel-based energy grid will happen. It will happen soon because our environment and economy demands it. How it happens is now up to us, and that's really exciting. I think we have a special role to play as a big player population-wise that really operates like a small blue-collar town. By staying involved, we can advocate for solutions that works for all of us in Ogden, and if the program works for Ogden, it'll be a model for anywhere in this country. I really believe that we have a chance here to make a real and positive difference, not just for our own town, but for our state and for our nation. So send someone great, advocate hard for us in these discussions, and I'm here, as are many of us in the Weber family and in our community, to help you with whatever research and information and support, however we can. As several of you stated, our heart's in the same place as yours. So we care about our community, we care about people. That's why we do what we do, and we're here to support you however we can. I'm really excited about this step. I'm also excited to learn more about our town's long history and our new Chief Little Soldier Way. So thank you, Council, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. There is one other hand raised from David Timmerman, but we've already heard from him. So I don't know if that's old or new, but so we'll move on. Yeah, he did. Okay. Moving on, comments from the mayor.
Sure. Just a couple of quick things. I appreciated Carrie's comments at the end about respectful dialogue and us all working through issues, and I've appreciated the dialogue we've had in here. And it's been an emotional issue. We've heard a lot of comments. Everybody's had an opportunity to listen and to work through that, and there are a lot of issues to this. It's not, as it comes to us, it's not a black or white or a 50-50, it's a 49-51, and so everybody's on both sides of that. And I've appreciated the respectful dialogue as we've gone through this. And this is the first step of a multi-step journey. So we've all committed to looking at this, to working at this. I'm proud of the seats we have at a lot of the tables on the state. We haven't had those, in my opinion, for a long time. I think a lot of people in this room have worked hard to get seats at the tables and to have a voice as we move forward to advocate for Ogden, and this is another step in that conversation. So I appreciated those comments, and I appreciate the diligence that you've all put into working on this, and I look forward to the work moving forward. I think some of the comments about what we're doing for renewable energy and what the energy companies are doing are very valid, and I share some of those thoughts and concerns. I also want to invite Weber State to double down and to stay involved in what's going on. There have been a lot of comments, and we hope to see a lot of action out of Weber State as we move forward on this. And so we've got great partners there, and I look forward to that. And with that, I will leave my comments there. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from council members.
Yes, Chair, I kind of feel like I need to reply to some of those things since I was called out on a couple of occasions. To the comment, the best time to plant a tree, 20 years ago is the right time, or 50 years ago, or whatever it might be. My concern is that we're planting a poplar and we need to be planting an oak. That is really what my concern lies with. I think we're going down the wrong road. I fear that we're going to be happy with our little poplar and waste time that an oak tree could be growing. It's as simple as that. I heard from several of our Ogden residents, our constituents, that we're very unhappy about the government enlisting them in this process without their choice. And they were concerned about that. I asked them, well, why didn't they come do public comment and make those concerns heard? And they said, well, quite frankly, I'm afraid, because the other side is kind of ruthless. They attack you if you don't agree with them. And I think all voices need to be heard, not just the ones we agree with. And so that's why I felt it important to give those points of view, because I think they hadn't been heard. One side was very organized and pointed in this, and the other side just was not being heard. And so I thought we'd better hear it. So some of the anecdotal evidence that was given to me was they said, watch Germany has canceled all of their nuclear power, which is kind of what they were kind of growing into that. But recently they've shut down their nuclear plants. And to go to these sustainables, and their power has gone up in exponential ways versus France, who has kind of bought into the nuclear idea, and their power prices are coming way down. I just think that this is we're just on the wrong road. It's just as simple as that. I'm not a climate denier, neither is Bjorn Lomborg or Michael Schellenberger. They both admit that the climate is changing. They just don't see that this is the remedy by which we need to solve the concerns. So, it's just simple to me. I recognize a climate change. I'm not a climate denier either, nor am I an environmental terrorist. I just think we should be doing this a different way. It's very simple.
Well, I'll follow with that. I do appreciate the process. This is why we have city council meetings and work sessions, and even living here in the United States of America. On the 4th of July, we celebrated the birth of this great nation, and one of the blessings of living here is that we have an opportunity to express our feelings and our concerns, and I think that's is a great blessing to all of us. Before I get into the major comments, I'd like to suggest to the administration that they work with the Forest Service to see if we could some way develop a space out there by our airport for the heli base that they're looking at for the Forest Service. I think that will be a great addition not only to our area, but it would put them in the right place and have the right items there. The other comment that I have is that on the 24th of July, the week of that, we'll be celebrating Pioneer Days. And that's another opportunity for us to reflect back to those principles that are most cherished to us, the rights of our pioneers that came before us, whether they were original pioneers or whether they're pioneers of today. My no vote was for people. I was very concerned about low income and what impact it would have with them, and also the single wage individuals. I hope this is successful, and I hope that our rates go down. But, you know, I look at some of these families and they're trying to determine, gosh, do I pay my light bill or do I put food on the table? And that may be a question that they will have in their own families. We've heard many comments on the importance of renewable energy, and I think it is important. I think it's important for us to find resources that will enhance our energy and help us out. I have faith in Rocky Mountain that they're in that business and that they will develop programs that will not only benefit us, but benefit the citizens of Ogden. I am concerned that Weber County is not on the program. I am concerned that some of the major cities, metropolitan cities in Utah, are not on the table. And that should be a concern, is that if the program that we're looking at is a opportunity, which could be an opportunity of helping and reducing our rates, why other communities are not at the table of major populations in Utah. St. George is not there. And I ask questions, why isn't St. George there? Why isn't Provo there? Why isn't some of these major cities, and especially in Weber County, North Ogden, South Ogden? They're not at the process of the table. So, you know, I do. The other concern I have is at the cost. I hope the cost goes down, and I hope we can benefit our citizens by that. But we haven't got enough information to solidify that. So I hope everything works out well to what we're looking at in our renewable energy. And I hope it goes well.
Thank you. Any other council comments?
One comment, quick question, Councilmember Heyer. Thank you for speaking up. Okay, you got to add now 6 minutes to that, Councilmember White. If you're going to be teasing me with that, I'm going to take my time. Hey, thank you for speaking out, Councilmember Heyer. Your voice is very valuable, and this is democracy at its best to me. And you know how much we value that in our council, so thank you. Thank you. Any chance that we know, I don't know if, Mayor, if you know the levels, the water levels at Pineview and how they're affecting Ogden. Are there any concerns about that for the season?
Huge concerns right now.
Huge concerns.
It's 36%. We met yesterday and talked about that. We're talking about how many acre feet Water Conservancy District has, Pineview has, Ogden City has. Luckily, we're first in line for a lot of that, but that's something that's been on the top of our mind, and we've been meeting regularly with that. And you need to know that you have one of the best water attorneys in the state that works under Gary Williams in Mark, and we have a very tight handle on what's happening, and it's desperate. It's very, very concerning for everybody.
So are there any remediation plans yet?
In terms of
just if such a great concern,
brown is the new green. Is
the new yellow.
So
yeah, our yellow is the new green. Like everybody's.
So along those lines, I mean, that should be one. I'm just wondering if there are others. I'm just curious, since it's such a great concern, and the teams that you talked about are meeting and taking it so seriously. I'm just curious. It feels to me that there should be interventions that are very, very strong and bold. And I'm just curious if there are. I still see a lot of people wasting a lot of water, for example, during the day. And I know that we have limited resources and we're not be able to get everyone and control everything. But I know when we had the 4th of July and the fireworks it was pretty good under control, with people not firing fireworks. And I saw the fire trucks around patrolling the neighborhoods. At least they came through my neighborhood a few times. And I think that was probably strategic. So I'm just curious if there are any strategy or things.
Well, state law tells us what we can and can't do. Right. And so there are a lot of restrictions there. And it had, if we were able to just say, here's the most responsible thing to do, we could totally do that, but state law doesn't allow some of that. So we're restricted in terms of what we can and can't do by state law. Okay. We had a press conference with the governor the week before fireworks were allowed, and I actually saw Councilmember White down there, and it was a pretty strong statement. And for us, that was 4 days after we had one of the most catastrophic fires we've ever seen in Ogden City with that apartment fire downtown. So it resonated with people. And we're planning another one now at the Utah League of Cities and Towns to go back out and say, look, this is really important and this is why this matters. And let's do it responsibly. So let the commercial people come in and let us organize and plan behind that, and not just have a whole bunch of random fireworks that come up in other areas. State law a number of years ago came out and said, one of the issues we have with that is that they have to buy and purchase all those fireworks 9 months in advance. So the legislature feels that for us to come out 2 weeks before the 4th of July and say, nope, we're going to restrict it all, is really unfair for the firework groups. And so they've had some strong lobbying down there to say, no, that you really can't do that. That's unfair for those businesses. So now it's been a full court press with us on the League of Cities and Towns and working with the governor's office to make sure that we address this and look at it. And you probably saw today that they closed northbound lanes for I-15 for a wildfire they had in St. George. I mean, everything is tinder dry right now.
Mayor, I apologize for confusing my comments for getting them muddy. I was really more interested in hearing if there are more concrete things that we can do about the water situation. So I'm just curious. You said brown is the new, what was it? And that's fine. I just don't know. Again, there are conversations about other things that we could do, enforcements, or I don't know. I'm just.
So I'll, if I could add to the conversation, there's a Utah water law is based on prior appropriation doctrine, and the main maximum of that doctrine is that first in time, first in right, and that means that if you go back in history and all the way back to statehood, there were the very first settlers who irrigated croplands in Utah. would be the first in time and first in right to divert water. And water is a right. It's a real property for folks, and there are legal obligations for water managers to deliver on those rights. But the real things that I'm hearing that are going to happen, and it's a little bit of a moving target, but in the word that I hear, as to when they're going to cut off those priority rights. And so if you're first in time and you're first in right, you're a senior water right. You have the first right at that water.
And Ogden City is
very
first
senior.
in time
We're
and
very
first
senior.
in right.
And so are a lot of the lower westernmost users and rights holders. So we're seeing water pass through our stream channels because it's delivering water down to those senior rights to the west. And we sit to the east. But over time, the junior rights, which are newer, are going to become, they're going to lose the right because there's not enough water. And those are real measures that keep water in our reservoirs. At that same time, it's critical that communities are having conversations about brown being the new green, right? Because it's not just, farmers and ranchers using water. It's municipal and industrial and residential.
Yeah.
It's
And
all the above.
ecosystems.
It's all the above. Yeah, and that still doesn't even account for
Wildlife
water
and
in
everything
our
else.
stream system. So this is something we can talk a lot more about if you want, but those are, once those priority dates change and more of those junior rights get cut because there's not enough water, that's a lot of water that we're talking about is saved each year. And those are the decisions through existing statute and law that are going to have to be made by water managers that are required to do that.
Okay.
It's coming.
Okay.
It's a matter of when, and that when is determined by how much we have. And those are the decisions that are within the rights of the law that allow us to get from year to year to year with water still in the reservoirs.
And in short, it's not a decision we can make.
Right.
That is one of the most sticky legal court things you can imagine. The Colorado River Compact is over 10,000 pages long. And
well, yeah, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. That's right.
It's totally true.
Echo your concerns. My worry is, even just locally, is once Pineview stops doing secondary water on August 1st, if not sooner, people are going to start using their culinary water to keep their grass green, etc.
So to answer your specific question about enforcement, yes, we are, but we need help. And people are not usually comfortable ratting out their neighbor, but we need some sort of proof because sometimes by the time we get somebody there, the water will be off. If we have a picture with a date stamp, then our first approach is that we go and try and educate. I don't know, sometimes you get a valve that's stuck, sometimes
bring a stick with you.
Sometimes the timer's off. It doesn't have a battery backup. I mean, there's reasons sometimes why good people it happens, but we try and educate. And if we end up going back again, then we start to fine. And we have had our code enforcement officers out there doing that, but we need a lot of help. I mean, as I drive around, I see less and less water on between 10 o'clock and 6, which is what we've asked people. Are we close to having to go to the next level? Probably. We have been meeting with Weber Basin Water and Pineview, and we've been having meetings. Our people have been. We're trying to work through the complexities, and we spent quite a bit of time yesterday trying to work through those complexities. And we're ready with a marketing plan when we're going to need to go forth and kind of go to the next step. It's not if we go to the next step, it's when we have to go to the next step. And
What about, Mark, what about Bonavista? Are we purchasing water from Bonavista?
we are. They do purchase some water from us, and that's on the table to talk about also.
And Pineview does, and a number of others, but as Ben mentioned, we're first in line for a lot of those water rights. And so, one of the conversations has been, we can probably get through this year, even if we get an algae bloom at Pineview. People need to be confident that we'll have good culinary water for them to take care of. We've got the Pineview water rights, and we have enough in the aquifers up there that we're going to be okay. If we have a terrible snow year next year, then there's going to be a whole different level of panic, not just for Ogden City. Yeah. We're in a better spot than most. it's going to be a whole different level of panic for the entire Wasatch Front.
And I was just going to ask if either of you wanted to kind of briefly explain what that algae bloom means and what it signifies for our water.
Sure. Well, and Jay probably ought to be the one to participate in this. But
Jay wants to.
When two people
when it gets warm enough,
Yeah.
the lake flips and there's enough nitrates in the water. And Jay, just tell me if I'm wrong, or come up to the microphone and explain it.
You're wrong.
He politely, with his silence, says you were wrong.
Yeah, and that's great. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, we're monitoring the water qualities of the reservoir at all times, and I get weekly and daily updates. The mayor told you the level is 36% of capacity. Our pH level right now that we monitor is at 7.9. It's usually around 7.2, 7.1. That means our nitrates are raising. Our water temperatures are at 56 degrees. 70 degrees is when we usually start seeing turnovers in the lake. But as the pH level goes up and the temperatures go up, that creates the environment for an algae bloom. And the more the lake turns over, the faster and the more ferocious the algae bloom gets. And we have treated algae blooms before in our new treatment plant and done it very effectively. But if it becomes very heavy, we won't be able to treat it. Our filters will just plug up. And so the mayor is exactly right. The warmer temperatures, the higher nitrates, the higher the pH, the worse the algae bloom gets. And unlike Utah Lake, they get a dangerous algae bloom. We've had just normal algae blooms to this point, but as this kind of weather, we've never seen this kind of weather. So we don't know what to expect, but we are monitoring daily and we are testing.
Jay, the 36%, where does that rank? I mean, in the last 10, 15 years, have we been that low?
No, 92 was
92.
the lowest it's been that we can remember.
Yeah.
What did it get to in 92? Do you remember?
Well, I have different dates in my mind, the months. I don't have the current comparison.
Lake Powell's, it's the lowest level they had since it filled. Since the dam started. It's the lowest it's been since they filled the dam.
But I mean, in any given time in 92, where it was normally 102 feet, it was a 92.
Yeah.
We could pray for rain, you know.
We need a lot of rain.
We need a good winter.
I actually think we need to do more than praying, and I'm really very serious about this. I think that we need a strong plan going into next year for conservation, and I'll have conversations offline, but I think these warrants conversation in a work session in partnership with the administration to be ready for next year. Because again, kind of along the lines, let's do what we can. That was my feeling about the solar. Well, let's do what we can here, right? What we can do here at our local level. We can't change all those priorities that Ben was talking about, but we can have some stronger conservation programs and more enforcement and good communication plans, etc. So I hope that, I'm just thinking, if we don't have water, we're going to die. It's just that simple. So anyway, thank you.
We're happy to do that, and we're happy to talk about, like I mentioned, we have one of the best water attorneys in the entire state. So there are things we can do, and there are things that are out of our purview. Yeah. And so we're happy to educate you on what we can and what is not legal for us to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Now that we've painted the gloom and doom,
Yeah, it's really
I'm ready
daunting.
for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Sorry.
Okay.
We have a motion by Councilmember Chaburka to adjourn and a second by Councilmember Nadolski. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes.
I was just trying to find something happy to talk about.
Meeting for Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. Let the roll call reflect that all board members are present. First up is the approval of minutes. We'll start with the closed session of February 23rd, 2021. Board Member Chaburka.
Yes, those minutes are accurate to my recollection.
Thank you. And the special meeting of March 16th, 2021. Board Member Heyer.
Yes, Chair, they're accurate to the best of my recollection.
Thank you. And the closed session of March 16th, 2021. Board Member Lopez.
Yes, Chair, the minutes are correct, and I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Lopez to approve the minutes listed with a second by Board Member Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next, we have reports from administration. We've got Brandon Cooper here tonight to discuss the proposed designation of the flagship survey area. Thank you for waiting patiently.
What a night, right?
Yeah.
Good job. Thanks for having me. We'll be brief. Before you tonight is a proposed resolution 2021-11, which established a survey area for the benefit of Amer Sports. And this is really the first step in the process of creating a CRA. Amer Sports, you all are familiar with. They came to our city with a headquarter relocation almost 20 years ago, and they have been working out of the American Can ever since as a North American headquarter, sales division, customer service, those kind of things. They have come to us to expand their presence in Ogden in terms of doing warehouse and distribution. They chose Ogden back then for lots of good reasons. Here are some of them, and they've really started what has been a watershed of other outdoor recreation companies. They were kind of the ensign, and as over time we've done quite a significant amount of work to establish a industry cluster around outdoor recreation companies, and so Amer has been at the forefront of that. Here's a number of logos that exist in the company now, and we're very blessed to have this industry cluster growing, and we're excited that Amer has decided to cast deeper roots into the community by adding more jobs and adding more investment. Here's a lot of the impacts that we've seen since Amer has established their presence here, as I mentioned, as a result of some of those other things that have happened too. So with this proposal, we have a couple of objectives. As I mentioned, we want to retain and grow the HQ, and we want to facilitate the expansion of the distribution center at BDO. This was brought to you a while ago in the form of a proposal. At the time, Amer was facing a decision to expand or to leave the city, both not only from a distribution standpoint, but also to potentially move their HQ. Their lease was up at the location that they're in now in the American Can Center. And so they went to the state, as companies usually do, and they look for incentives to stay and to grow. In the process of doing this, they received a number of other incentives from other states, the largest being $9 million from Reno. They have a heavy and a very robust incentive program. But through negotiations with the state and through negotiations with us as a city, as an RDA, and with other taxing entities, we were able to create an incentive package that was preferable to them, even over a greater incentive package from Reno. Part of that from the state was EdTIF, so it works like a tax increment does from property tax, but it's corporate tax, and that came in the amount of about $1.3 million. They also have an industrial assistance fund that grants money, so they were able to make a commitment of $300,000. And that was meant to be matched by a local incentive through the RDA of about $2.4 million. That lease rate reduction actually was not necessary in the negotiations, so they actually didn't take advantage of that. But at the time, this was something that we brought to the council a year year and a half ago, and look to receive a letter of support from the board. Sorry, not the council, but the board. We look to receive a letter of support from the other taxing entities as well, which we did. And so we made we gave the support for the local match in so much that they were able to then get the state incentive. This is the parcel that we're talking about that would be subject to the survey area. So we don't usually do CRAs or survey areas for singular properties, but in this case, this was our best chance at providing that local match for the state incentive. And so this is the building they are operating out of, and this is the subject property that will be part of the survey area. The budget that we put together is how we based that incentive amount of about $2.4 million. This is based on real property tax and personal property. So the actual building and facility and property will be taxed, and the $30 million investment of equipment and personal property will also be taxed. And that's the numbers over 10 years. So that's the basis of what we will be studying. Here again is a summary of that. So this is roughly what AMR was expecting to receive, about $4 million if you take out that $500,000 lease reduction. So again, this is the first step in that process. Establishing a survey area gives us the authority to then move forward with additional negotiations with the taxing entities, the creation of the project area plan, the analysis of the budget to make sure it's current and correct, the interlocal agreements that would be necessary to make that budget happen, and then come back to you with all of that information for review and approval. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So no public input, right? No public input. So we're just any further discussion before we take a motion?
So this is just, sorry, we're just creating the CRA, right? We're not approving the tax increment at this point?
Just the survey. No, you're just creating the survey area. The CRA would come later as a proposal for your consideration.
Yeah. It's a formality. It's a formal process. We've got to take the step. And I know we had the conversations in the past. So we signaled support, and I want to follow through on our word. But I don't like that to me, like, just principally and philosophically, it doesn't seem like just a good direction to be creating such a small area for a single need. It's not ideal, is all.
I agree. It is not ideal.
Yeah. But this anchor of this industry is really important, obviously. And so is our word. That's important too. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I think you got it.
I'll be right there.
Okay. Yep. Don't go far.
He's still right there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Chair, I propose that we adopt proposed resolution 2021-11.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt proposed resolution 2021-11 by Vice Chair White and a second by Board Member Heyer. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Traverka?
Aye.
Board Member Heyer?
Aye.
Board Member Lopez?
Aye.
Board Member Nadolski?
Aye.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye. Thank you. That passes. Next up, we have comments from the Executive Director.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Comments from other board members.
Nothing.
Talked out.
I don't know. All right. Okay. Then I'll accept one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Nadolski and a second by Board Member Lopez to adjourn this meeting. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.